On Saturday, it was my birthday, so I decided to go explore some places that I hadn't been to in a while. And for me, it was just kind of a chance to do a bunch of stuff. But really, it was also a chance to go do some exploring and some uh, understanding of how the retail market was working. I had done these studies beforehand, and I just thought I'd give you some updates on those pictures. Let's see if I go in the right direction. No, it had rained that day. So you can see lots of rain here as it pours down. I think I held this shot too long. But I worked to, it was just raining all morning long, and I was just like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Is this going to be going all day? I'm going about an hour or so away from where I'm staying, but I lucked out. The rain wasn't that bad. It just looked really cool, and with 60 frames per second at 1080p, it looks really nice. That's just me standing up and going, oh, look. And look, there's my dog. And it's raining. So that was pretty much the morning. And I drove all the way to almost Coeur d'Alene. It was actually Post Falls, kind of the edge of the state border. This is the Idaho side. This is the side that when you cross the border, you see a sale for guns. And Cabela's is by and far the perfect choice for that. If you look into Cabela's, you can see that there are things in the middle that kind of point you in a direction. You need to go around to find what you're looking for. They still place things so that you can go through, but you'll notice that it's not going to be as much, so that everybody is kind of milling through in a certain direction and then they get off where they're going. And I, of course, went to the gun library. This is an old school pistol. I believe it's 18th century, 19th century, or mid 19th century at most. You can tell by the way the hammer is built. They didn't really build bullets the way we understand them until around 1860, 1870. And yes, I decided to just. It's the one thing I've really kept from Idaho is sarcasm and a love for guns. So I thought I would just go to the gun library. I like guns. Here's a video of the gun library. It's literally just people milling around going, oh, look at this. Hey, check this out. Ooh, guns. And this is an early Tommy gun in its guitar case, no less. I mean, oh, ho, ho. $600. Yeah, I can't afford it, but at least I could look at it and be like, oh, 1920s, 1930s gangsters used to shoot these. Woohoo, it would be fun. They weren't very powerful though. The story of people just standing in front of their car and the bullets couldn't hit them is pretty accurate. They weren't very powerful guns, but they could spray enough that if they hit somebody, they hit them. And just pistols without beyond pistols. And if you look, there's one that's pink, specifically for the ladies. It's $430. And another Castle Model 290. Oh. Only 87 of these firearms exist. It's a similar magazine to the Tommy gun as you saw, but it is $10,000. It's a very, very rare gun. A little more accurate, or a little more power, a lot more accurate, but you get the idea. And I like the gun on the far left because it reminds me of James Bond's gun. Though I guess the one on the right is with the long shaft is sort of the German equivalent gun. But that's just how it goes. Anyway, Cabela's has all these displays, of animals that have been shot, and here's a really sad shot, the white rhinoceros. It's now extinct, and here's a stuffed one at a Cabela's. Kind of a weird feeling, don't you think? And they just had these animals out so that you could recognize them and be like, oh yeah, this is what animals are like in Africa, and Sometimes you can hunt them, sometimes you can't. I wouldn't go to Africa to hunt, but I would definitely take a camera. And I don't think I could ever get a shot out of a springbok like this. By the way, the springbok is also the name for what are they? It's not baseball. It's oh, that not baseball game that the English play. Oh, cricket. Uh, that's the name of the national team for the That's the South African national cricket team, is the Springboks, and they're quite proud of their team and love to go like, oh yeah, you can do it. And why they chose the Springbok, I don't know. But once again, I don't understand cricket at all. I sort of understand it, but not to the point that I can help. One moment, I'm gonna pause this. Hopefully this is still recording. I hit play. I don't know how that works. But Springboks. And this is a Blecker or something. I don't know. I just like the nose, and I thought I'd get a good angle. And they have in-store events, and they're trying to make it lively. This is a Disneyland for hunters. They're trying to make it feel like it's an event to go here. And it was. I mean, they had a little dog show, so there were all sorts of dogs going around, and this one was just ready to have its picture taken. And these tents that you're looking at, they're like a foot tall at most, or a foot and a half at most. And I all I could think was, that would be perfect for the dog. The dog would love that. Just let the dog in, zip it up, and oh, it's got a little place to stay. Well, I put up a bigger version of this tent. And I just realized it's the same cost for the bigger version of this tent as some of the guns that I was eyeing. That's just the thing, is hunters, they get nerdy about their subject just as much as anybody else. And of course the plane. This is what that one guy referred to as weenies. They're things that you can spot from any distance, and you kind of have as a goal in mind as you walk around. So then you know where you are at any point. And they have a actual live fish area, and it's just this giant aquarium, and these are fish that you will find throughout the Northwest. And so any fish you're looking at, you will find, or you can fish, or you can actually catch. And this is the central area where they keep animals. And yes, all of these animals were hunted and stuffed, and they were put into this central area. I don't know why anybody would hunt for a red fox. It makes no sense to me. But, these were just... the reason why they have this thing in the center is it's easy to spot, and it also is blocking your path. So your best option is to find these very obvious paths around. And by everybody moving around, it actually lessens traffic a bit, because everybody just moves quickly to where they want to go, and then they get off, instead of everybody kind of moving straight and getting stuck. And here we go with a pan. One of the reasons why I went to Cabela's, beyond the fact that I like guns, is I noticed that this is built almost exactly like Fry's Electronics and all of the other big stores that are trying to make an event out of arriving here. And it's based on the Disneyland idea. It's based on some video game ideas. And I thought I should show them to you so that you can kind of see them. And there's a bear. This is honestly just pictures I took so that I could Instagram them. And they would just have these displays everywhere. So then you can be like, well, it's the bighorn sheep. Oh, that's where the camouflage is. And it's Idaho, so I honestly couldn't find the Lazy Boy in camouflage, but I have seen it before. And this is a place, and in early arcades, they would actually build much smaller versions of this, where you could go in and you'd shoot little light things, and your gun has a little camera on it, and it's picking up the lights that you're seeing around you. And let me show you a more clearer shot. And each one of these lights, when your camera picks it up, will immediately be like, oh, I've been hit, and I'm going to create a reaction, or I'm going to make a response, and I'm going to show you your score. And if it's been hit, sometimes the characters will kind of move a little. Here's a video of it. See how that works? It's just a shooting game, only they made it a little more elaborate as kind of an event, as kind of a ride for you to enjoy. And at the end of the way, you will find the fudge area. And I didn't buy any fudge, even though I really wanted to. This is actually really good fudge, and they have tons of fudge for you to enjoy. And it's just a great place to go. Hi, Aunt Cindy. And they create this event so that you can enjoy it. So that was Cabela's, and although I know that some of you are not going to be hunters, some of you are going to be very much so against hunting, and to be honest with you, I actually hate hunting. I like guns just because I enjoy shooting them, but I am not a hunter. I don't like killing things at all. And I just want you to see, take your mind away from what it is about. Instead, take it and go, how do they use this same idea for video games? How do they use the same idea at Disneyland? Why is this the same thing working? The theme this week will actually be about how retail stores and other places are based like video games because they have similar goals. And we're going to talk about why this isn't always talked about aloud. And we'll get into that a lot more. I'm working on the slides for the first lecture, and it might come out today, it might come out tomorrow. I haven't been able to get all the pictures yet, but the slides are ready. And, this is Cabela's. And we just, oh man, those mountains are gorgeous. It's one of the few times that I'm just like, oh, look at the clouds. Nice. Just a nice cloudy day in northern Idaho. And I drove around, and this is not a joke. I did not pull over. I did not do anything. I just stopped because there is no traffic in this area at all. And almost all of these stores are closed. And this is in a place called Post Falls. And there's just nothing here. And I heard about this this comic shop, and honestly, my GPS told me to take a right, and I basically went around the back lot so I could go around and find the parking lot. But I saw this beautiful view, so not all that bad. But I opened up, and half the stores in the area were closed. When I was driving to this area, they were all closed. There was like one store, and I was just like, wow, this is really sad. I've been told by people who run retail places that there's just been kind of this dying atmosphere about this, and that's going to be next week's theme, is this transition time that we're taking from where we are now, which is a very walls and rules and lines type culture, to a much more free floating area. And we'll discuss that more next week, but I thought I'd show this to you. And this is Nowhere Comics. Oh, BB-8. And these are places for you to sit. Nowhere Comics just reopened in Post Falls, and I had liked them a year ago when they first opened up, but I had never actually been into the store yet. So I decided on my birthday I was going to drive to Post Falls, and I was going to see this place, and I was going to drive to Cabela's, and I was going to see some of the nerdy stuff in Coeur d'Alene. I live in Cheney, which is on the other side of Spokane, and so I don't get to go into this area very often, so I thought I would explore it a bit. And this is roughly the new comic shop. The guy in there says that it's a family event. His dad and his brothers all just started the place, and they were just big fans of comics. He says that he wanted to own a comic shop when he bought his first comic, and I think that's a pretty accurate assessment for a lot of the people I've met who run comic shops or video game stores or places like that. And I'm trying not to get the artist's face. This is kind of the view. And yeah, that's an ugly carpet, but there's just comics for sale. And it's a pretty sparse place, but that's to be expected. They just opened a year ago, so they're not going to have the selection that an older, larger comic shop will have. Not to mention they have, kind of room to kind of figure out where they're going to put stuff. They're just new. While I was driving around, I saw a bunch of cats and other stuff just parked for no apparent reason. So I was like, okay, well, I'm stopped here. I might as well pull over or not pull over. I took a wrong turn, and so I just kind of reached out, took a picture. I was in a gas station, so I was just like, okay, I'm parked anyway. So I took this picture, and then I moved on, and I moved on to Toys R Us. And Toys R Us, we've been hearing a lot about it closing, and it's honestly this big shocking thing for a lot of people. I have a good friend who just lost her job because she's a manager at a Toys R Us, and she's just like, I don't know what to do. This is devastating. And I've got a lot of fond memories of Toys R Us, but really the reason why I came here isn't to pay my last respects. I was looking at for RC cars, and I knew that Toys R Us tends to have some good RC cars. And I want you to look at this again in the way that it was in the same way as Cabela's. This is a little to the left, and they actually aim everything so that you want to go down this aisle. And if you look just to your right, you'll notice that everything is in the way. So they want you to kind of move down this aisle around in this way. But they also made these little paths around these little aisles so that, the large group goes down this way, and then they kind of take on to these sides. So there's never a lot of traffic in the area. And if there is, it's down this way, and it's going to be quickly moving. And yes, that's everything off and all this stuff, but don't go in there for any sales. I didn't. And yeah, I saw a Honda CRZ, and I was like, oh, I should take this picture. And now that I look at it, I'm like, it would be really difficult to see behind me. But I got to Toys R Us, and when I was there, one of the things I really noticed was, first off, the RC cars were nice and were in a reasonable price. And I was just like, oh man, I want to know how this car works, but I don't know how to test it. If you understand what I'm saying here. I mean, it was $50, and I was like, oh, it's almost the perfect size. I kind of want to know how much power it has, because the last 3 cars I've bought, I've taken for one show, and then they were out. They were done. And I don't want to do that again. So I was like, okay, what else can I do? And I also bought a game there. It was $5. I'm going to show you a picture of that a little later, but you'll see that. And I went to Barnes & Noble. I don't know why. I went to Barnes & Noble first just because I got into the wrong lane. But I thought I'd take some pictures. And this is the video game books section. And no, they don't have any video game history books. And I asked them, like, do you have video game history books? Do you have anything like this or this or this or this or this? And they're like, well, no, we don't. We treat the more casual fans, the fans that we believe will buy more from us. And it's an interesting thing, because when you go to a bookstore like Barnes & Noble, you're not looking at what the common buyer will buy. It's what the manager believes the common buyer will buy. And I'll show you some examples, but I saw some of this Doctor Who sonic screwdrivers, and I saw these at Hastings, and I was like, oh man, should have got them when they were at Hastings, but Hastings went under, and to be honest with you, so is Barnes & Noble. But they have all these displays, and once again, they have a thing in the middle, so that you go down, and then, you have to take a right, or you have to take a turn. And they're doing this specifically so that traffic kind of filters out on its own. And these little things like this kind of catch your eye and move you towards it. So it becomes a goal to take a picture of it, but also to kind of be attracted to what you want. And that's a Beanie Baby. That's exactly what you think it is. Oh, Fluffy is his name, by the way, from the first Harry Potter book. And you'll notice almost this is the computer section of the books, and every single one of them is for dummies, an introduction to this subject. Oh, you just want to barely get into this here. Buy this book, and that's an interesting problem for the bookstores. Is they're not trying to sell to the major book buyer or to a book buyer who's deep into the subject. They're trying to sell to the newbie, the new person into the books, so that they have a lot of casual or beginner stuff for just about everybody. That sounds weird, but that's what I see a lot of. And I went to a completely different bookstore, or a different Barnes and Noble. It's in the Northtown Mall, and I just thought this would be a cool picture, and it is. It really is. And this is the history section. And the same idea. This was the first time that I realized that they weren't selling books for a history fan. They were selling books for people who want to be history fans. And, they've got the World War II, they've got Stalin, they've got Queen Elizabeth in there. And that's how they think. They think these are the subjects you want to talk about, these are the things you want to look at. You don't really want anything else. And I was like, really? No, I'd like more on this subject or this subject. But they really don't have that. And that's hard to find. They've got Dobby. And Barnes & Noble has been breaking out and opening up into board games and toys and stuff. And when I was looking at it, I realized something really weird. Barnes & Noble is opening up games and all this stuff that a lot of the same stuff that you will find when you go to Toys R Us. And I was just thinking, Barnes & Noble isn't doing as badly as Toys R Us. They're still not doing well, but they've kind of branched out in the same way that Hastings has into games and toys and stuff. And because people are more likely to buy toys if they're nerds, and because most nerds are looking for toys at a bookstore, maybe that's one of the reasons why Toys R Us isn't doing or has suffered so badly is, all these other groups that were selling, these separate products have started to sell what Toys R Us was selling, and Toys R Us was no longer this exclusive place. And I thought, that's a good theory. I mean, it's not the only thing that did it, but it's this new idea where everybody started expanding and Toys R Us couldn't expand. Much as Phoenix is landlocked. All the towns around it have closed it in so that it can't expand anymore. The same thing with Tempe in the Phoenix Valley. It is literally surrounded by other cities, so it cannot move out like it wants to. So it can only grow so far, and then it can't grow anymore, which means that it can never make more money or, see an increase in revenue. The only thing it can do is stay at this line or go down. And that's what it was like at Toys R Us. Just everything there was like, you could buy this somewhere else. Interesting. And yeah, see, there's toys. Cool toys. Toys for people that have money and want to spend it. And that was kind of where Toys R Us was trying to aim for. And suddenly there it is at Barnes & Noble. And I walked around and I saw this little kiddie game and I was like, oh, cool. I saw a really cool kiddie game back at the Northwest Pinball and Arcade show. And it was this little dolphin game, unimportant to you. But it was one of the funner games that year. So I thought, if I ever see these kiddie games, I should take a picture of it because obviously they're doing something cool. And this is just purely Instagram stuff. It's a Ferris merry-go-round in the mall. And once again, this is near the center. In the same way that you saw Cabela's, you'll notice that the mall kind of moves around. And then they have these lines that go into the middle. But if you watch, it goes directly to a food court or something else. So that if you really want to get somewhere, you go around. And, they'll just have these little displays next to you so that you're always like, oh, hey, that looks like a nice store. Oh, hey, that looks like a nice store. And I took a bunch of just shots because I felt artsy. And this is, I believe this is the game that I played back on the ferry from Bremerton to Seattle when I was going to Emerald City Comic Con. And I really wanted, and I was enjoying this game, but I didn't get its name. So I believe this is the game, and I'm going to look into it more. But it was a really fun game. So I took its picture so that I would know. And, there's the background information. And there is a Jigglypuff in a costume. I was at the comics shop, and really I was just there to be at the comics shop. But you'll notice that they do a lot of this, that they do one thing. If you walk in, you can walk straight to the counter, because at the counter, they have comics for people who have comics or who have ordered comics. And, there's the food court area. And I stopped at the other comic shop. And I just thought this was a cool picture. See, there's the other comic shop. And I saw some Sandman, which is a fun series, but you have to be careful around it. And I actually saw a pink Power Ranger little Funko thing, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. I should take a picture of it. But I decided against it. And now I'm like, oh man, I should have taken a picture of it. But this is the back wall. And you'll notice that, nice straight line, but they get everything in kind of a specific order. So if you're looking for Marvel, it's over here. Whereas if you're looking for, just a used comic book, it's on your left. And they have, the place where you've pre-ordered comics is right at the front. But if you just want to kind of browse, they have this kind of open area for you to walk around. Or if you want to back order, it's in those boxes. And they've got thousands and thousands of comics. And that Nowhere Comics that you saw that was pretty sparse will soon become this. So long as it continues to have business and work, they're going to eventually have a ton of comics, just because there's a ton of comics coming out every year. And I was like, okay, I purchased a ton of stuff, and my day is over. And then I checked, my parents gave me some birthday presents, and they bought me Spam, and they bought me Top Ramen, and they bought me cheese. Hot sauce, meat, eggs, veggies, try this all with ramen. And those are all pretty good choices. And then we went to a ramen shop, ramen and sushi place. And if you look at this recipe book, if you kind of pause, you'll notice there's references to Game of Thrones and some other movies. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And I just thought I'd be artsy for the day, because it's my day. I could do that. I got some katsudon. My mom bought a bento box. Bento boxes, by the way, are not big fancy things. In Hawaii, we'd buy bento with meatloaf on it. And I actually really liked meatloaf from in the bento form. And it would just be like this little box thing, and you quickly bought it. But they also have fancy forms of it. This is my mom's food. And that's kind of the day. Oh, and we also got pie. My mom made a homemade pecan pie for me, and I was like, yay, thanks. Ooh, much better. And we had some ice cream with it. And that was my birthday. I watched Jumanji for that day, and that was the day. Now, the truth is, I actually have held off because I wanted you to see all the presents I got. So I'm going to press the button here. And I'm going to shake this. Okay, so I bought myself DuckTales. Really, I bought my mom DuckTales. And then my dad got me Three Musketeers. And I bought these games at Trade-A-Game. I've been eyeing Blast Corps and Forsaken 64 for a long time. And I was just like, okay, I've got the money for it. It's my birthday. I'm going to buy these. And I saw Super Street Fighter 4 for $5, and I was like, yes, I've been meaning to get this game as well. So I got them all, and I'm all proud of myself. And I bought Fantasia Music Evolved for the Kinect at Toys R Us. And as strange as it sounds, this is one of the few times where I'm going to keep the bag because I don't think we're ever going to see another Toys R Us bag. So I'm like, well, here we go. Gonna keep the bag because it's actually an important historical thing. There we go. Better shot. Even better shot. And these are the comics I bought from the comic shop. The Storyteller and the Fairies. The Storyteller Fairies. And this one free one for Marvel. I've been eyeing the Jim Henson Storyteller. I really liked the TV show. And so I was like, oh my gosh, they've got a comic version? I should check this out. And this is my other present. It looks weird. It is actually a hat rack. My parents bought me a hat rack. I don't, because I have a hat and I have some coats that I kind of keep on hand because my dog really likes to go outside and she doesn't give me a warning. So there we go. That was my birthday exploration. And I'll catch you all later.